Hey fellas, this is Vince Miller. Thank you so much for joining me. Now, many of you know this, but occasionally I write these letters to my son, and I want you to know that they are actual, genuine letters to my son. So in me sharing this with you, I'm kind of opening up a dialogue that I've been having for years with my kids. I want to pray that you'll use them how you see fit. You can copy the text, paste it, share it with your own kids, share the link, share the video and audio. I really don't care. I just pray that maybe they'll bless you and your relationship as you disciple your own children. So today's message is entitled, What is Success? So son, I believe that actually determining and pursuing a genuine definition of success has been and always will be one of the great challenges in your quest for manhood. I have known many men, by the way, who have invested decades of their life trying to figure this one out, only to become undone by a single moment in time, right? That causes them to completely redefine their understanding of success. Therefore, the reason I'm writing you this letter, it's an attempt to caution you on how you perceive the success of other men and how I believe you should define success and pursue it for yourself. So here are 3 points for you today. First, I want you to know success is not found by worldly means. Success is not found by worldly means. I'm going to read a text to you today from Jesus himself from the book of Matthew chapter 16 verse 26. Here's how it reads. It says, "For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? Or what shall a man give in return for his soul?" Now, there are numerous ways we determine and measure the success of a man in this life. Pretty natural ways we do this. They're intuitive, right? The income he makes, the perceived power of his role, or the number of followers he has on social platforms, right? Almost without a thought, we reference these worldly measures as if they are the sole determining factors of a man's success. But the lie we believe is that they are the sum total of a man. But there is no man who has known success in any of these areas who would say that pursuing them led him to any kind of fulfillment. In fact, the people I know who do pursue them are always wanting more, always. They're perpetually consumed and let down by their gains. Therefore, I have to conclude that this has got to be a shallow determination of success. And in the verses I just read, Jesus explains this, right? Jesus even says that it's possible for us to gain the whole world. And there are many men who try this. Bezos, Musk, Gates, Zuckerberg, Buffett are just a few. These are 5 men who are currently among some of the most wealthy men in the world. And we learn from them that it is possible to gain the world, or at least major portions of it, right? But as Jesus explains, if you pursue them, you're only going to get their temporary gain, because more is always wanted, right? So let's get honest with each other just for a second. Have you and I dreamed of being rich? You bet we have. We've even discussed this together. And I'd be lying if I said no, right? But I have heard the story too many times from too many men who are too rich to know that most of them are actually miserable, lonely, and exhausted by their pursuit of riches. Because you see, there's no end to the pursuit. It never fulfills the soul, like Jesus says here. Or more accurately, success in these areas provides a form of temporary pleasure, but not real and lasting fulfillment. And thus it falls short of what I believe is true success. And in Jesus' statement here, he's urging men to consider their interpretation of success. He wants them to assess the better investment. So his question, the question Jesus poses to us, is this: will your determination of success be something that provides only temporary fulfillment, right? Or something that provides lasting, profitable gain? That's it. Now, honestly, I could care less about how much money and power and fame you gain in this life. These things only matter to those who worship them. I don't. And I want you to know that I want you to be able to provide for yourself and your family along the way. But in the end, I care more about your spiritual success and your pursuit of soulful profit, because I know that this is far more fulfilling than anything else. But here's the catch. A man can pursue a soulful profit and do it in the wrong way, and thus miss aiming for true success. So let me address that next. Second, Success is not found by pursuing spiritual things in worldly ways. I hope you understand this. We can't find success by pursuing spiritual things in worldly ways. I want to read a different text now. This one's actually from Paul. It's in the book of Ephesians. He says this. He says, "Put off your old self, which belongs to your former manner of life and is corrupt through deceitful desires, and be renewed in the spirit of your minds, and put on the new self, created after the likeness of God in true righteousness and holiness." Now, this one's a little bit more difficult for me to describe, but I really want you to understand this point because I think it's essential. Because see, I think many Christian men transition from the world's means of success to a godly means of success, but end up doing this out of worldly motivation. And the two areas I see men do this the most are in how they live out their obedience and how they use their gifts. Now let me clarify. There's nothing wrong with nurturing obedience and using our gifts. But we can't pursue either of these things the way that the world pursues things. For example, when a man pursues worldly success, we primarily do this out of selfish and self-centered motivations, right? We do it to elevate ourselves. But as followers of Christ, we can't pursue our obedience or gifting out of the same motivation. But unfortunately, some men do. And they do this primarily because it's hard to unlearn our selfish motivations from our time living in the world. It's just hard, right? But to pursue spiritual activities by worldly means actually devoids the spiritual activity of its divine purpose. And we fail to see that. Consequently, many men get frustrated when this means is less than successful. As a result, they find using their gifts unfulfilling and their spiritual obedience doing it exhausting. The reason why is that they're pursuing these things for personal gain. So son, I want you to understand something about me. You should never assume a couple of things about my spiritual motivation. First, that I pursue Christian obedience to increase my popularity with people or my standing with God. Second, that I use my spiritual gifts to receive economic advantage or gain power or influence in this life. My true motivation behind doing these things is actually to bring fame to Jesus' name, right? I'm just using my obedience and gifting to do it. That's it. There is no other reason that I do these things. Now, I know that you're not going to always be able to see this because my motives might feel hidden from you. You see my actions most of the time. My actions are easy to see. My motivations are hard to see. But I want you to know that this is my primary motivation. And sometimes as a result of doing these things, living in obedience and using my gifts, God grants us some provision for the family, right? But really it's that provision that's secondary. It's a secondary outcome, not the focus of my pursuit. You need to know that. Now, I got to say this. It took me a long time to learn this lesson. And I hope that you get to learn this earlier than I did. And I should add, there are some moments I still struggle to put off the old man's motivations, like Paul says here, renew my mind and put on the desires of the new man. Yet in time, you too can learn to have a new mind and new motivations in your pursuit of true godly success. So you got to be testing your passions for success daily and learn how to redirect them toward pure and holy motivation. But the question still remains. What is true success? So we got to look at what true success actually is, right? We got to understand what that looks like. And I'm going to share with you a text today, actually from Mark chapter 12, verse 30. And it might feel a little cryptic. Here's how it reads. Jesus says, "And you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind, and with all your strength." Now, it's going to seem strange that I picked this text, but here's why I chose it. Love is an eternal currency. It has real value, and it has lasting profit, and it provides perpetual fulfillment. Love is where success begins and ends. It's not found in the love of things, but a person, and that person is God. That's what Jesus declares here. Eventually, we all have to face this truth, that God's love is the only endless commodity. And he, out of love, pursued us by sending his son. Through Jesus, he wants us to know how much he loves us. And he wants us to love him. And in his love, there is fulfillment, value, profit, and success. Son, men have spent lifetimes learning this lesson, the lesson of true spiritual success. Know that there is only one who can love you like you need to be loved. And when you know God's love with all your heart and soul and mind, his love will fill you and spill over into your motivations and then out into others. But here's the catch. To know the fulfillment of this love, you have to love everything else less, much less. Listen to how Jesus says this in the verses that I referenced before. Just before it, Jesus says this. He says, if anyone would come after me, let him deny himself and take up his cross and follow me. For whoever would save his life would lose it. For whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. And then he tells us about the profit verses, right? So if I could sum up success, I would sum it up this way. Success is denying all selfish motivation, all of it, letting go of everything in this life and learning to love God with everything that I am. Son, I want you to learn this lesson long before I did. If you do, I would consider you one of the most successful men I have ever known. And again, I don't care about how much money you make, your status among men, or the number of initials that come after your name. I only care that you invest your life in learning to love God before all things. And guess what? I love you, man, but not as much as God does. Thanks for joining me today. If this has inspired you, I pray you'll share with someone you know. We'll see you right back here again tomorrow.